Altitude. The plane is cruising at an altitude of 30,000 feet. Cockpit. The pilot entered the cockpit to begin the flight preparations. Runway. The aircraft is taxiing towards the runway for takeoff. Turbulence. The passengers were advised to fasten their seat belts due to turbulence. Cabin. The cabin crew is preparing for boarding. Emergency. In case of an emergency, follow the instructions of the flight attendants. Gate. Passengers are requested to proceed to gate B12 for boarding. Seat belt. Please fasten your seat belt during takeoff and landing. Taxiing. The aircraft is taxiing to the runway for takeoff. Takeoff. The plane will begin its takeoff in a few minutes. Landing. The landing was smooth and on time. Boarding. Boarding will begin shortly at gate A5. Departure. The departure time for Flight 102 is 10 a.m. Arrival. The plane has reached its arrival gate. Passenger. The passengers are seated and ready for departure. Crew. The flight crew is responsible for the safety of the passengers. Cargo. The cargo hold is securely locked for the flight. Airspace. The aircraft entered restricted airspace during the flight. Flight attendant. The flight attendant demonstrated the safety procedures. Control tower. The pilot is in constant communication with the control tower. Altitude adjustment. The aircraft made an altitude adjustment due to weather conditions. Flight plan. The flight plan has been approved by air traffic control. Emergency exit. The emergency exit is located at the rear of the cabin. Seat. Please make sure your seat is upright and your seat belt is fastened. Wind speed. Wind speed was high during the flight, causing some turbulence. Weather conditions. Weather conditions may affect the flight schedule. Jet lag. Jet lag can cause fatigue after long international flights. Pilot. The pilot will communicate with the passengers before takeoff. Airline. The airline has cancelled the flight due to severe weather. Aircraft. The aircraft was delayed due to mechanical issues. Climbing. The plane is climbing to its cruising altitude. Descent. The descent to the airport began 30 minutes before landing. Flight delay. There is a 45-minute flight delay due to technical issues. Flight number. Please check the flight number on your boarding pass. Runway lights. The runway lights are visible from the cockpit. Visibility. Low visibility due to fog delayed the flight. Throttle. The pilot adjusted the throttle for takeoff. Flaps. The flaps are extended to reduce the aircraft speed. Wing, the wing of the plane is damaged due to the storm. Jet engine, the jet engine produces thrust to propel the aircraft. Altitude chamber, the altitude chamber is used for pressure testing. Overhead bin, passengers are requested to store their bags in the overhead bins. Landing gear, the landing gear was deployed as the plane descended. Autopilot, the autopilot was engaged for a smooth flight. Cleared for takeoff, the aircraft has been cleared for takeoff after the safety check. Boarding. Pass. Please present your boarding pass before entering the gate. Charter flight. The company arranged a charter flight for the conference. Direct flight. The direct flight to London will take approximately 8 hours. Layover. We have a 2-hour layover in Frankfurt before continuing to Paris. Time zone. The flight will cross several time zones. Frequent flyer. She is a frequent flyer with the airline and gets many perks. Gate agent. The gate agent will assist you with your boarding process. Layover. We have a 2-hour layover in Frankfurt before continuing to Paris. Non-stop flight. This is a non-stop flight from New York to Los Angeles. Overhead compartment. Please store your bags in the overhead compartment. Passenger seat. The passenger seat was reclined for comfort. Pilot license. He has a commercial pilot license and flies for a major airline. Private jet. They flew to the conference in a private jet. Radio communication. The pilot maintained radio communication with air traffic control. Rebooking. Due to the delay, passengers were offered rebooking options. Runway inspection. The runway inspection was completed before the flight took off. Safety briefing. A safety briefing was conducted before takeoff. Seat assignment. The seat assignment is shown on your boarding pass. Security checkpoint. All passengers must pass through the security checkpoint before boarding. Takeoff roll. The aircraft began its takeoff roll at the designated runway. Tarmac. The aircraft was parked on the tarmac after landing. Taxiway. The aircraft taxied along the taxiway to the runway. Traffic pattern. The plane was following the standard traffic pattern for landing. V1 speed. The pilot reached V1 speed during the takeoff roll. Vertical speed. The aircraft's vertical speed increased as it climbed. Wake. Turbulence. Wake turbulence is caused by the jet engines of large aircraft. Wingtip. The wingtip of the plane is designed to reduce drag. Weather radar. The weather radar detected a storm ahead of the aircraft. Wind shear. Wind shear can cause significant turbulence during flight. Winglet. The winglet helps improve fuel efficiency by reducing drag. Aileron. The ailerons control the roll of the aircraft during flight. Flotation device. Each seat is equipped with a flotation device for water landings. Auto-throttle. The auto-throttle system automatically adjusts the engine power during the flight. Pitot tube. The pitot tube measures the airspeed of the aircraft. Instrument panel. The pilot closely monitors the instrument panel for flight data. Fuel tank. The fuel tank is filled before each flight. Liftoff. Liftoff was smooth, and the aircraft ascended quickly. Disembark. Passengers will disembark once the plane has reached the gate. Flight deck. The flight deck is where the pilots control the aircraft. Aviation fuel. The aircraft is refueled with aviation fuel before departure. Safety card. The safety card is located in the seat pocket in front of you. Terminal. The terminal was crowded with passengers waiting for their flights. Crosswind. The aircraft had to adjust for the crosswind during landing. Signaling light. The signaling light is used to communicate with the ground crew. Control surface. The control surface helps the pilot to steer the aircraft. Flap extension. The pilot initiated flap extension to prepare for landing. Headwind. The plane encountered a strong headwind during its ascent. Tailwind. The tailwind helped speed up the aircraft's flight. Yaw. The aircraft experienced yaw during turbulent weather. Altitude sickness. Some passengers experienced mild altitude sickness during the flight. Approach path. The aircraft followed the designated approach path for landing. Departure lounge. The departure lounge is where passengers wait before boarding. Air traffic control tower. The air traffic control tower directed the aircraft for takeoff. Runway lights. The runway lights were illuminated during the night flight. Final approach. The aircraft began its final approach to the runway.